So I'm here today with Brian Neumann. Brian is one of our loan officers here at North Point Mortgage, based out of our Hilton head office. So Brian, let's jump right in by talking about how you first got started in the mortgage industry.
Yes, 2004, I was in a job in the cleaning and restoration business and was not having fun, working all hours of nights and weekends, and decided to do something different and kind of started researching, talking to my friends, and a lot of them were realtors and attorneys and builders and developers, and realized nobody was doing anything in the mortgage business. Started looking into it, seemed interesting, like something I would like, and jumped right in. So I
That's great.
started in April of 2004.
Okay. And did you start out right as a loan officer or did you do other
I did.
positions first?
Nope,
Okay.
I went right in as a loan officer with no clue what that meant, other than a brief description from the people that hired me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think, they gave me a 6 month salary or something that wasn't a lot of money, and then it was just good luck. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Sometimes jumping in head first is just the way to go. Best way to learn something. Looking back, what is one thing you wish you had known when you first became a loan officer?
I would say, well, I started in 2004, so I wish I would have known that our industry has big ups and downs. Because when I
Mhm.
started, it was in a big up, and then in 2008, we quickly went down. Um, so wasn't prepared fully, in my job and my savings and mentally for that. But
Mhm.
that would have been a nice thing to know, is that we constantly seem to see roller coaster rides in our industry.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of your career so far?
Really like helping people buy their homes. I love being a part of our community and giving back. And so, helping enough people and having done it this long, walking around, running into people that you helped 10 years ago and they still say thank you, and they still love their home, or people always love when people call me back, or old clients give me referrals. um, just really the whole process of, getting somebody into their home, and whether it be their new primary as a first time buyer, or, a second home for people who have dreamed of having a home by the beach, or, even young people getting into rental properties because they want to, build a portfolio. It's just, I like helping people accomplish their goal.
Mhm. So since you started back in 2004, I'm sure you've seen a lot of change in the industry, but what would you say is the biggest change you've seen in the mortgage industry since you started?
I other than, products and things, I would say technology has been huge. When I started, it was, taking all of the applications by hand and then typing them into a system, and then having to FedEx packages to underwriters, or, up to corporate
Mhm.
offices, even closing packages. We would get back in paper and they would have to be sent out somewhere. So technology's really been the biggest, with all of the online aspects now, and people can link their jobs and their assets online, and we can pull it all in. That's kind of been, I think, the biggest change I've seen, that I've enjoyed anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure that allows you to be much more productive as a loan officer.
Yes, yes.
What are some strategies that have worked best for you for building your client base?
Um, just staying grounded and focusing on who I am, and, getting out, meeting people, making sure that we try and go above and beyond customer service. Not every deal is easy, and so I don't pretend that it is. Have found that honesty is really the best approach in our business. Just telling people up front, hey, this, we're going to get it closed, but it may be a bit of a bumpy, rocky road. And just my name and reputation spreading through that, of, if I tell somebody we can get it done, we'll get it done. If I tell them we can't, we help them find another outlet if there is one. But that's the biggest thing I've found, is just being upfront, honest, and proving to my partners that we stick with it, we get it done, and it's not always pretty, and that's just the nature of the business we all work and live in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you work with a variety of different buyers in all different sorts of situations. So how do you adjust your approach in working with like a first-time home buyer versus a more experienced home buyer?
Um, Probably some of the obvious answers. I mean, first time home buyers, we try and give more love and information to, usually a lot more questions. And if they don't ask a lot of questions, we still provide a lot of information because they don't know what they don't know. The repeat buyers, some of them still want to be treated that way, which is great, and we love it. And some of them just understand the business. They understand what's going on. They kind of want to be left alone and just go about their day. They know what they've got to provide us and the steps that need to happen. So just kind of managing that, difference and really just tailoring each loan and service approach towards the client's needs.
Hmm. Yeah. And often, you mentioned that there's all different buying situations where some are a lot more complicated and take longer than others. You might have to jump through a lot more hoops. So, what are some ways that you just build that trust with clients who just are feeling really overwhelmed by the process, whether it's taking a long time or it's a lot more steps than they imagined?
Um, we try and uh, head that off in the beginning by just saying, here's the process, here's what you're going to go through, and try and tailor that information to each person. Because yes, some deals are harder where you're going to tell them up front, we're going to need extra documents, we're going to need to deal with this. We try and identify the potential potholes and landmines along the way. To say, look, you might get a phone call from me about this, but there's a solution, or, we may have to address this down the road. We really just try and my team and I try and use communication to, just get it all out up front. We don't like surprises. People don't like surprises when they're buying a house and they're living their life and doing their job. So we try and prevent that as much as possible.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you have a story you can share about a particularly memorable or a meaningful loan that you've helped to close?
In my Not long after being married, in 2010, my I was unfortunately we were victims of a home fire. The local fire department had to go in and rescue my wife. Um, and after that, down the road, got to know the firefighters who rescued her. One of them was really trying to buy a house, had a lot of credit issues, had some other issues coming out of the financial crisis. And we were able to work with him and his family and put it all together. It took some time, rebuild everything, and get them into the home they really wanted. And they're still in that home today. It was in a neighborhood that his family just really wanted to be in, and it was rewarding to help repay him the tiny bit I could for
Mhm.
what he did for us.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
So, moving on to a little bit more just about the industry in general, what do you feel is a common misconception people have about getting a mortgage?
That it's really hard and it's going to be time consuming and lots and lots and lots of paperwork. I find that a lot of people come in just assuming we need 3 years of every document they've ever received and DNA and everything else in between. And a lot of times I find them they positively surprised when it's like, no, we only need these couple things, this here, that there. So I would say that the biggest, just people thinking this is going to be so hard, I'm not going to get approved for a loan, I don't have enough credit or I have too much credit or something like that. They
Mhm.
kind of are already self-selecting themselves out, and then we explain this is actually not going to be that bad and we can get you what you want.
Yeah. I'm sure the increase in technology has helped with that a lot, just with the ease of submitting documents and all of that has probably helped the process to be a lot easier for buyers as well.
Yeah, it's made it much easier and faster to gather stuff.
Mhm.
We're not relying on snail mail and
Right.
fax machines and things like that. But
Hmm.
and not everybody does a great job at doing loans, and so people have a bad experience and they just assume that's the norm.
Hmm.
So we find that all of a sudden we're able to jump in, help, and they're like, wow, that it was a lot easier. And it was like, well, yeah, we just did what we're supposed to do for you.
Yeah. So you mentioned already kind of the ebbs and flows of the market and that kind of being something you wish you had known early on was that there are a lot of highs and lows within the mortgage industry. So how do you keep yourself motivated during those slower market periods?
Um, it just it sometimes can take a day or two for me to realize I'm in it, and then you do slide into that little slow funk. And or start goofing off. Okay, I'll go play golf or something today. I just once I realize, oh, I'm kind of in that flow, just refocus myself, start making phone calls, going to see people. I find, just try and get a loan application from anyone because it's like loans seem to breed loans. And so, I just surround myself with people who are talking about real estate and mortgages and that always seems to spur some activity and things to get moving.
Hmm. Yeah. So are there any current trends in the mortgage industry that you're paying close attention to right now?
Yes, mainly the lack of consistency in anything. It's busy one minute, it's slow the next, rates are good one minute, they get worse the next.
Mhm.
We seem to just be in a time of constant change. From month to month, quarter to quarter, and year to year. So really kind of been paying attention to that and trying to figure out what's causing, last week to be busy and this week to start slow, like, well, and things like that, and seeing how do we get around it. And that's kind of the same thing I look at when I'm trying to get myself out of the funk or out of being slow and just sitting here, reading stuff on the internet or, going to play golf. I start to talk trend or look at data, look at trends, and then just start calling realtors and people and let's talk about this. And what are you seeing? And then it
Mhm.
kind of always seems to spur future conversations.
Yeah. So where do you think the mortgage business is going to be 5 years from now?
Good question. I mean, I think in operationally and technology wise will be the same, maybe a little more advanced. See if AI starts playing more of a role. Um, in terms of rates, I have absolutely no clue. I'm not going to guess. And in terms of business, I would think and hope we're busier than we have been the last couple of years. Hopefully, by that point, things are going to have shifted around. Baby boomers are going to start moving on to assisted livings and elsewhere, and I think that's going to free up inventory. I think that'll be a continuing trend over the next 5 to 15 years as they age out and the next generation comes in to fill them.
Hmm. Yeah. So what do you think sets North Point Mortgage apart from other lenders in the industry?
The small family style business is what really drew me to North Point, and it's really proven to be a real benefit. I think the fact that we don't have layers and layers of management. There's only several people who make decisions. They empower all of the underwriters to make their own decisions, but if they're not comfortable, it only goes to one or two people. It doesn't get bogged down. Things move very quickly. Everybody comes to work every day with the attitude of let's just get loans closed and let's keep the client as happy as possible. Um, I've found that that's just been a real blessing and similar to a previous job I had in my career.
And then how do you personally set yourself apart from all the other loan officers in the market?
Uh, it's a good question. I don't I don't do a whole lot different. I mean, I probably even do less than some when it comes, especially if it has anything to do with social media. Um, I firmly believe that this is a relationship business. People want to be with somebody. They know that they're part of a team, part of a group, whether it be realtors, attorneys, the client themselves. I just again, back to the one question, I mean, just be open and honest, and here's where it's at, and here's what I can do for you, and here's how we're going to do it and how we're going to help. Communication. I try and communicate as much as possible with everyone, but I don't do anything super special or different in terms of that stuff. It seems to have worked just fine, just going out and being who I am and telling everyone the truth. When I first got in the business, I went around to, I guess, the father figures of my life, the older folks in real estate, mortgages, and developing, and found a common trend that mortgage lenders never call you back. They never tell you what's really going on. They always kind of hide things until there's a problem, and it shows up at the last minute. And so I just kind of said, okay, I'm going to not do that. Just
Mm.
going to tell people up front, if we find a problem today, we announce it today, even though we're might have a solution in 3 days, just get it out there. And I found that that's been a very good recipe that my referral partners and my clients really like. Nobody likes to be told there's an issue, but you'd rather be told 3 weeks before you're closing than 3 days before you're closing.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication and honesty. You'd think that those would be, the bare minimum for people, but unfortunately it often isn't.
Well,
So,
some people are just scared to call people and say there's a problem. And it took
mhm,
me a while,
yeah.
to learn and to master those phone calls, and knock on wood, I don't make many of them. Um, but I found that the person was upset when I called 2 weeks in advance, and right at, of closing after finding the problem. Whereas if I tried to fix it myself and called 4 days, they were really angry.
Mhm.
And I put myself in that. Well, yeah, if I'm thinking I'm closing in 4 days and now I hear there's a problem, and the person's known about it for another 10 days before that, I mean, that's not fair to anyone. And it's also not fair to our team. You need underwriters and processors and closers to all be on board to fix it. And, the sooner we all just start talking about it, the sooner we can fix it and the happier the client is. If you can get them to the closing table, and if that last 24 hours goes smooth, they will forget about all of the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
All
another
right.
plug for North Point. They're very good at that last 24 hours of
Mm,
getting, once you're clear to close, of that file getting out the door, the funds getting out the door, and everything closing smoothly.
yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to some more lighthearted rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Pizza or tacos?
That's a tough one. I'd say pizza.
All right. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Hank Williams Jr. and Charlie Daniels Band.
What is your dream vacation spot?
The Galapagos Islands.
What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I shot myself in the hand in a hunting accident 3 months before my house burned down.
Okay. What is the most used app on your phone?
Um, wow, I don't even know. I'm gonna look real fast. Probably the news sites.
Mm,
I read just a lot of news and things like that on my phone. I don't do a ton of social media, and a couple little games here or there, but that's probably the most used.
okay. Are you a early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about Hilton Head?
The uniqueness of the island, the fact that we are just a little island off the coast of South Carolina, and we're in our own little world here for the most part.
Coffee or tea?
If we're talking hot, coffee, cold, tea.
Mm. What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Piddling in my garden.
Mm. What is a motto or quote that you live by?
Uh, Basically, don't be mean, don't be rude, just be nice. And people are mad and they're upset, or they want, just be nice to everyone.
That is a good one. All right. And finally, if you weren't a loan officer, what would you be doing?
If I was not, um, hmm, not really smart enough to do anything else. I'm not sure. Probably fishing.
Okay. Yeah, you can make a career out of that.
Yes,
All right, Brian. Well, that is all my questions. Thank you so much for your time.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.